Hi, it's Nadia here and welcome to my third layering workshop. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a wire wrapped beaded bar necklace with a bead drop, and I think it works perfectly with the chain, the first chain, the link chain that we made in the first layering workshop, and the beaded bar chain that we made in the second one. Before I start, please remember to subscribe to our channel. We have weekly videos and some great projects for you to do. Let's have a look at the materials and the tools that I will be using, but I will be listing all of the materials and all of the tools in the box below, including the links that you need to get them. So you need some fine chain, about 1/2 centimetre of it. It's up to you what chain you want to use. I've made my layering necklaces quite fine, so I'm using a fine gauge chain. You need 1mm wire. I'm using mine in gold because my chain is gold. And for my mixed plating, I'm using 0.4mm wire in silver and in gold. You need some ball pins or head pins. It's up to you which you prefer. Just a couple of them. One for your little bead and one if you want to put a bead at the end of your extender. I'll also be using jump rings. The size of the jump rings you use depends on the chain that you're using, but it's always good to have a selection because you might change the size of the jump ring to make it look neater. And for the tools, I'm using flat nose pliers, round nose pliers, some nylon jaw pliers, some flush cutters, and I will be using a chasing hammer and my little jewellery block to go with it. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is cut a length of my 1mm wire. It's got to be about 8 centimetres. You could do 8.5 centimetres long. I would like the bar in the middle to end up being approximately 7 centimetres plus the 2 little loops on the side. And I'm just going to straighten it with my nylon jaw pliers. I'm going to put my block on a towel just to absorb some of the hammering. I don't want to hammer it too much because I don't want it to be too flat, but the reason I hammer it is when you hammer metal, it hardens it, so the shape that I make with it will stay. You don't really want to have a bar necklace where the main part in the middle moves a lot and changes shape. So now that I've done that, I'm going to make a loop at both ends, and I do it with my round nose pliers. As close to the top as I can, so the loop is very little, and you can just bend your wire around the pliers so they're like a little mandrel, and it should be quite accurate if you do it this way. And a little squeeze with my flat nose pliers to make sure there's no gap. And I'm going to measure it now because, as I said, I want it to be 7 centimetres once it's finished. So I'm going to trim off my wire. So I've got a bit too much here. I'm going to make a loop on the other side, and it's important to make sure that the loop that you make on the other side is facing this one, so they're both going inwards. So again, at the end with as little overhang as you can, and just bring it round. Till it reaches the wire. And now I'm going to shape it, and I'm just going to use my spool of wire to shape it around, but you can use a glass jar or anything that you've got that's round, that's the shape that you want. Just and I'm just going to straighten the loops a bit at the top because they're a little bit twisted, and you want it to lie flat or lie correct at the bottom of the chain once it's finished. I'm just going to put it on here again. Okay, now that I've got it, the shape that I want, I'm just going to squeeze it with my nylon jaw pliers. Again, this will harden it and straighten it so it's not warped and help keep it in shape. I'm ready to start wrapping my little bar, my little curved bar, and I'm going to do it mixed plating. So I like it to be quite accurate, and I'm going to do 1 centimetre in gold wire and 1 centimetre in silver all the way along till I've finished it. I'm going to wire wrap my bar now with my 0.4mm wire. You can use it straight off the spool, or you can cut little lengths. It's up to you, whichever you find easiest. But I'm just going to straighten it a bit before I start with my nylon jaw pliers. And I think starting the wrapping is always the fiddliest part, to make it stay where you want it. So I like to put my wire through the loop and bend it, and then I'm going to squeeze it with my flat nose pliers. So that it's closer and it stays in place. I've got a little tail which I'm just going to leave because I'm going to go over it for extra security. Make sure it doesn't open when you wear it. In fact, I'm just going to twist that tail around a couple of times. And I'm going to bring it closer with the tip of my pliers. And you can use your nails as well if you want. And now I can trim off that little excess. Make sure you have a good pair of flush cutters to do this, because you want to get as close as you can to your coil, to your little twisted wire coil. And now I can start twisting my wire around it, and as I go along, I will just keep pushing it together with my flat nose pliers so that my coil is very tight. I'm going to measure as I go along. So I want each twist to be 1 centimetre long. So I'm up to 1/2 centimetre now. Just carry on. Just a couple more twists should get me to 1 centimetre. So I've got exactly 1 centimetre, and before I cut this one and move on to the silver one, I like to leave it and run it along just a little bit so it goes under the silver coil to secure it so it doesn't open when you're wearing it. I'm going to straighten my silver wire with the nylon jaw pliers so it's ready to start wrapping. So I'm going to put it just a bit further up, and I'm going to work my way back and then over it again just to make sure that nothing unravels when you're wearing it. So the same thing again, just do a little twist to where the gold has ended. I'm going to twist the little tail around a couple of times before I cut it. So now I can cut the little tail and the gold wire. Give it a little squeeze with my flat nose pliers so there's no little edges protruding, and also just so it's easier for me to carry on wrapping the wire afterwards. And I'm going to bring it a bit closer so that the coil is very tight. And now I can just continue to wrap the silver wire around the bar. I'm going to push it, keep pushing it in so that the coil is always nice and tight. It will look a lot neater in the end if you do it this way. You can also make some little adjustments afterwards where the joins are. So wrap, tighten and measure until you get to 1 centimetre. And again, once you're at 1 centimetre, don't cut off this wire yet until we secure it with the next one along. So I'm leaving a little tail, and I'm doing just slightly further up. Going to twist it around, twist that tail a couple of times over the previous wire. And now I'm going to trim it. And cut the silver wire that I finished doing, the previous one. Little squeeze with my flat nose pliers to get rid of any sharp edges and make it nice and close to my bar so I can continue wrapping. I'm down to the last one. I'm just going to go through what I've been doing again, just to clarify. So when I finished my previous 1 centimeter, I'm not cutting my wire yet, just to give it extra security, because I'm going to wrap the new wire over it. And I've prepared my new wire just with my nylon jaw pliers, so it's nice and straight and slightly harder, so it's easier to use. I'm going to overlap it just a little bit further from my very last loop, or from the very last little wrap, and have a little tail. Which I'm going to wrap around a couple of times before I cut it. I'm going to squeeze it in place with my flat nose pliers, just so it's closer to my wire, the base wire, and now I can cut it. And I can cut the previous wire as well. Just one more little squeeze before I start. Okay, and now I can just carry on wrapping my wire. And I squeeze it with my flat nose pliers to bring it closer, and I will carry on until the end. I'm just going to bring it closer again. Okay, so I'm going to cut it now, just leaving a small tail for me to finish off. And I'm going to put it inside the loop. Put it nice and tight. And I'm going to twist it inside my loop just a couple more times, so you might need to use your little pliers to help you with this. So just put it through your loop. Just going to straighten it a little bit. Makes it easier. And put it through my loop and catch it. And I'm going to try one more time, just to be safe. So through my loop. Pull with my flat nose pliers. And now I'm going to trim it with my cutters. And just give it a little squeeze. So my wire wrapped bar is now ready. I'm just going to go over it with my nylon jaw pliers just to make sure there's nothing sharp sticking out. Okay, I can see that over here I've got a tiny little bit, so I'm going to squeeze it again with my flat nose pliers. So if you see any little sharp edges, squeeze them in between the coils. Okay, so now I can attach the chain to it, and you have two options. You can either use a finished chain and cut it and join the sides, or you can just use chain that you've got. It's the same thing. And the length of this necklace should be 48 centimeters. So my little bar, including the two eyelets at the end, has come up at almost 8 centimeters. So you need 20 centimeters of chain on each side, and then you will have your clasp, and you can put a little extender on, but I will put all the dimensions in the box below. So I'm going to show you what to do if you've got a ready-made chain. I'm just going to cut my ready-made chain in half in the middle. And I'm going to check the lengths to see if they're as I need. I need 20 centimeters on each side, and this is slightly longer, so I'm going to trim it. So 20 centimeters here, and again, slightly too long, so I'm going to trim it here as well. And with my two lengths ready, I'm going to attach them. I'm going to attach the bar to them with jump rings, and I'm going to try with the very little ones first to see if I can make it work. So it sort of looks seamless, because these little jump rings are more or less the same size as the links on my chain. So I'm going to open my jump ring, and I'm going to put the bar on it. Last link of the chain. And close it. I'm going to do the same for the other side. jump ring, slip the bar through it, the last link of my chain, and close it. Now I'm ready to put my little pendant on it, the little bead. I've got a choice of pearls, but I'm going to go with my freshwater disc pearl, and you can use a ball pin or a head pin, whichever you prefer. I always like ball pins. I think they just give a nice little added extra. So I'm going to make mine with a ball pin. You have to make sure that your pin is long enough to go over the wire and wrap. So the pins I'm using are 5 centimeters long. If you don't have a pin that's 5 centimeters long, you can just make a little pin using your wire. So once I've threaded it onto the pin, I'm going to take my round nose pliers and place them about 1/2 centimeter above my bead and quite close to the top. And I'm going to make a loop. That goes all the way around. Now you can finish this off and attach your bead onto the bar with a jump ring, but I think it's prettier to attach it straight onto the bar. So I'm going to slightly open the little loop that I've made with my flat nose pliers. So I'm just lifting it up forwards, not to the sides, and I'm going to slip my bar into the little loop that I've made. And now I can just squeeze it back shut. So, oops, a bit fiddly, I've lost it there. So I'm going to do it again, put it in, and now I'm going to squeeze it back shut with my flat nose pliers. Straighten my little wire, and I'm going to wrap it around until I reach my bead. Okay, cut the little edge as close as you can. And give it a little tuck in between the bead and your little coil. And I'm just going to straighten it a bit so it hangs down. And the last thing that I like to do, just to finish it off nicely, is add a little extender to my chain. So you can either add an extender made out of chain, or you can just link together some jump rings, 5 or 6 of them. I'm going to just add a little extender which I've made from the little chain cuttings that I took off before. So 2 lengths of 1 centimeter, and they're attached with 2 jump rings. I'm just going to join them onto the jump ring at the top. Open the jump ring. Put the last link of your extender chain on it and close it. And at the end of my extender, I like to put a charm or a little bead. I'm going to use a little pearl for this one, which I'm going to put on a ball pin again, just so that it sort of echoes the one I've got on the main necklace. And I'm going to make a loop. So just a little bead. Just going to open the little loop that I made, slip it onto the last jump ring on the extender and close it. Layer 3 is my mixed metal wire wrapped beaded bar with pearl. It's 48 centimeters long plus an extender. My layer 2 was my beaded bar station necklace made out of mixed metal seed beads. It's 44 centimeters long with a little extender. And the very first one that I made was my handmade chain made out of 2 size links, and it's 40 centimeters long. So this is how they would look if you layered them together. They work very well together and very well on their own. And I look forward to seeing you for the very last one, my layering number 4, which will be the next one along. But in the meantime, enjoy making your necklaces. Leave us feedback. We love to hear from you and look forward to seeing you again soon.